Well, all right, all right, all right. Happy Friday, everyone. If you're tuning in on this live impromptu podcast of Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, I'm your host, Coach Lois, transformational coach, plant medicine woman, and someone who's really been talking a lot about inner child healing. Trauma, triggers, how we go through this life is a reflection of what's going on inside of us. And I'm really, really excited to have my friend and colleague, Katlin Aubrey, here. She's such a bright sparkle of light and such a great divine channel of wisdom. I follow her on Instagram. I encourage you to follow her too. We're just coming here for a few minutes today to talk about why is she and I so passionate about this inner child healing work? What does it really matter? Why should you care? So Katlin, I thought I'd start with you. You've been on my podcast in March, and I've been just following you just the past 5 months, maybe. And your posts are so compelling, so convicting. And I've hired you to help me go in and do some healing that's radically changed my life, which I'll share about later. But why are you so passionate about this inner child healing?
So I'm so passionate. Oh, thank you, Lois, by the way. I'm so passionate about really inner child healing because that is really the root of everything that we experience in life. Basically everything, how we process things in life, how we experience the world around us is kind of created in our childhood. And so healing that inner child trauma heals us now because to an extent we've taken that trauma ever since. We've held on to it ever since we were children. And so really healing that inner child trauma heals us now because it really assists with healing our perception, really the way we look at the world, the way we look at things, the way we look at ourselves.
Yeah, so true. So true. And I honestly was blind to that myself until about 3 years ago. A lot of people have heard my story where I talk about I was a binge drinking workaholic. I thought I was headed for divorce. I didn't understand why was this all happening to me, right? My little girl was completely shut down and I wasn't listening to her. I wasn't understanding that as within, so without, everything, people, places, things, events, words that are said that might trigger us are just mirrors back of what hasn't been healed inside of us. Would you say that is accurate?
Yeah, so everything that we experience, regardless of what it is, if it's something that's really good, really juicy, if it's something that's really triggering, really evoking that trauma, all of that is really, really sustained within that space of the childhood trauma because that childhood trauma has been playing and replaying ever since we experienced that. So we have trauma still going within us, to an extent, replaying, say ever since we were 3, ever since we were 7, 5, and that's been just playing.
Yeah, you're right. We're addicted to the story, as I always say, and we're really addicted to that fear. And we've not given those tools in school, in church, in college. I think even if you've studied psychology, even my psychotherapist friends, I mean, a lot of times people are trying to heal through the mind where there's so much more going on in our bodies and our hearts to metabolize and to process. And most of our stories, I think, are programmed in our heads and our bodies by the time we're 18, something like 80%, right? And then we're still developing until we're 25. So gosh, I had a lot to unpack, and Katlin helped me, guys, just so you know. I had a really strong masculine wound, and it was so deeply entrenched because I was raised by a single dad. I had an older brother. We live in this, quote unquote, patriarchal man's world. And so just because you're a woman doesn't mean you don't have a masculine energy and a side to you. And so we're going to be talking about that together in our masterclass on Tuesday, May 23rd. We're going to talk about what we're going to share with you that day, but you can also go to the website link on the slide, innerchildcleansing.com, .now.site, and specifically we're helping you uncover these wounds, just like Katlin did for me, and what I've now starting to do more and more with my clients is uncovering the root causes of those wounds and how to become whole again, how to, like I have with the masculine wound, once you unpack that and you find the root cause within your being, your heart, your soul, with love and compassion, oh my gosh, everything changes. I'm no longer a binge drinking workaholic. I have a completely different relationship with my husband, you know, who had his own wounds, right? I think a lot of marriages end in divorce because we don't understand each other's masculine and feminine wounds. So Katlin, I'm going to turn it over to you. Why don't you share what you're going to be talking about in the masterclass?
Yes. So just with the whole idea of the feminine and masculine wounds. So really going into the feminine and masculine wounds, how those really relate to our body, how they get trapped into our body, how we really experience those things, and to an extent, really looking at those feminine and masculine wounds, because y'all, to an extent, these feminine and masculine wounds don't just need to be to an extent caused by your parents. They can be caused by caretakers or individuals in your life when you were a child that really provided that deep-rooted wounds within you. But y'all, just really going in, discussing the inner child and how the masculine and feminine wounds relate to the inner child, and to an extent how we can go about clearing those.
Beautiful. And I could speak to that, and with Katlin's help and a lot of different tools that I now I'm going to be sharing in my portion. It's like awareness is the first step, as cheesy as it sounds, because I think, Katlin, I'd like to ask you this question also before I share what I'm going to be covering is, don't you think a lot of times as little kids, we take things so personally because we're just like these little bundles of love and light. And yet if we were shut down, like I know that was one of my wounds, is I was shut down a lot as the baby of my family. I manifested an autoimmune disease in my throat. And then you have mentors, coaches, school teachers, the list goes on, people in your church or spiritual community, and they all embody their own stuff that they project upon us, and we think it's our fault, right?
So yes, to an extent, it becomes this idea of the victim-perpetrator role. So when we experience trauma, oftentimes what we can do is we can go into this, say, pattern of, to an extent, experiencing life as the victim and everyone else is the perpetrator, rather than, to an extent, walking within your own space, walking within your own light. You keep to an extent, putting those hoods over your eyes that you are still that victim. But y'all, you don't need to be the victim anymore. You can break out of that. You can heal that by healing the inner child.
I love it. Yeah. So what we're going to do, Katlin, is we're going to help people rewrite the story. I like someone in my plant medicine community was talking about the victim story. Let's rewrite a hero's story or a heroine story. You are whole, perfect, and complete inside of you. You just got to come back to that wholeness, which is what we're going to talk about. So in the class on Tuesday, again, it's 1 p.m. Pacific time. So we're going to be going for 90 minutes. Okay. Katlin's going to do some healing and a process with you first. Then I'm going to come in. My passion, my skill set is working with the ancestral trauma. So not only do we embody the trauma and the wounds from our childhood in utero, I can speak to that, but even 7 generations and even further back on both sides of your parents, even if you didn't know your parents, maybe you were adopted, but you still carry their trauma and things that, are in your DNA. And so you might have habits. You might have trauma responses or triggers, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. How do they show up in your life and where did they come from? So I know for me, I grew up with this these sayings, these stories, we'll call them, that alcoholism ran in my family, autoimmune disease ran in my family, and like all of these other labels that I attached to in my mind as a kid. And then it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's actually not the dis-ease that runs in your family. It's actually the DNA and the events from way, way, way far back. You weren't even maybe alive, or I believe we are our ancestors coming back to clear the karma, to heal the past of the ancestral wounds that our ancestors couldn't do for many reasons that we won't go into in here. But this is the time of awakening, the time of the age of Aquarius that we're entering into. So I want to be able to help you understand that it's not you per se. It's just you're rewriting here in this moment, in this time, in this universe. We're here to heal that and open up a whole new world of love, compassion, and light, which our ancestors, I believe, are calling us to do right now. It's a huge opportunity. It's just if we're staying in that victim story, like Katlin was talking about, it's really, really challenging because I was there. I was stuck there for probably 14 years in the victim story. And once I realized, oh my gosh, I'm embodying the shame of many, many generations. I'm embodying the guilt of many, many generations. I'm embodying the fear from the Great Depression and from when the Christians converted, a lot of people that were pagans into their religion. There's just a lot of layers, and we want to help you unpack that. And so those are the big things that we just wanted to share with you about why you would want to attend. And Katlin, I'll let you maybe talk to that first with this final question is, who is this ideal for? Like, who is just be like, oh my gosh, I got to attend this class on Tuesday?
So essentially just individuals seeking to grow as an individual, individuals seeking to grow as a soul, to an extent, release any limiting beliefs, to an extent, if you are seeking to just release anything that is limiting you from your full and whole potential, just to really break free from what you have kind of subjected yourself to for all of these years.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'll speak to this. I actually did a post on this in Instagram. I sent it out to my email list. So some of you have probably read some of my passions. For me, if you have believed the stories of things like alcoholism runs in the family, high blood pressure runs in the family, maybe you're addicted to something. Maybe you are a binge eater. Maybe you're an emotional eater. Maybe you were like I was in my 20s. You over-exercise. You overdo. You're addicted to busyness, staying busy. Or maybe you're in a place of self-sabotage all the time. It's kind of like you have this goal, this dream here, but it just seems like you take 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. Maybe you have a gambling issue, a shopping issue, all of the things. There's so many like trauma responses that show up and manifest in this life. And especially my last one that's near and dear to my heart, because like I said, 2 years ago, I thought I would be divorced by now. If you're in a partnership, whether it's business or personal, marriage, spouse, or just a relationship, and you just feel like you're constantly doing this, remember, it's not the other person. They're just mirroring back to you things, memories from the childhood, or again, ancestral, that, the universe, the divine, God, source, creator, whatever you believe in, is asking you to heal. And if you keep resisting it and blaming and pointing the finger at that other person, guess what? You're just going to find the next partner, whether it's business or personal, same story, different name, and just keep repeating it over and over and over again. And that's just, there's no bliss, joy, or exceptional living when you keep repeating those same mistakes and be in denial around that. So those are the kinds of people that we want to help. We just want to love on you for 90 minutes. So go sign up on the link, innerchildcleansing.now.site, 1 p.m. Pacific, Tuesday, May 23rd. It's only $11, guys. $11. I mean, you could go to Starbucks and spend that in one trip. In fact, if you are a Starbucks junkie, this class is for you. I also was that in a past life, so I understand
Relatable.
Right. Overspending, addicted to caffeine, sugar, all of it. There's underneath there somewhere, guys, are those childhood wounds. So we want to save you time, save you money, help you heal and get to those roots and uncover what maybe holding you back. And it may not be as painful and as difficult as you think. So anything else you want to add, Katlin, as we wrap it up?
I'm so excited for this. Y'all, it's going to be so juicy. It's going to be so healing, y'all. I'm so excited.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, please hit the share button. Sharing is caring, especially if you know someone, and maybe you have a friend who's done hundreds of hours of psychotherapy, grief counseling, addiction recovery. They've done so many different things to quote unquote heal. This may be the answer. This may be an answer to their prayer, an answer to what they've been looking for, but they're feeling so lost, dazed, and confused. They don't know where to turn. So sharing is caring. Please share this with those you care about, those that are struggling, especially as we get ready to go into summer. We want you to have an amazing summer, amazing time with your family. And so look forward to seeing you guys. Until next time, Lois signing off with healthy and wealthy and wise. Here's to your best health, your best wealth, your best wisdom. Bye-bye for now. Thank you, Katlin.